Happy Halloween, you guys. Welcome to Gavin Games. I appreciate you being here. Now, let me tell you what's going on. And then we've got so much. I'm so backed up. I need myself a brand muffin. Yes. Hallelujah. All right, let me focus. It's been a really busy week. I usually don't stream this late. Shut up, Jaffe. Don't make excuses. Just fucking do a show. All right. Welcome to Gavin Games, everybody. It's Jaffe. I appreciate you being here. Now, listen, I want to tell you a couple of things first before we get right into the news. Number one, as always, the first half of this stream, we got some good bangers. We're going to be talking about Calisto Protocol not being released in Japan. What are you talking about? We're going to be talking about God of War retailers breaking street date, spoilers. We're not going to talk about what the spoilers are, but we're going to talk about the value possibly of those spoilers. All this first part is all free to everybody. If you're watching live, it's going to be free too. But after the fact, if you're not a member, you still get the first half of the show free. The second half, you know, is for members. Okay, fuck you, Grave Doll. He says, ew, Alana's starting soon. Love you, Jaffe. I tell you what, if you're going over to watch Alana Pierce because she brings you better insight, better news, better what have you, great. If you're going over there just because you're like, you got to get your rocks off, not a problem, pal. I'll see you back in about, what does it take you, about 40 seconds? And I'll see you back here and we'll welcome you back. All right. Are we ready to get into some news? We got a lot of video game shit going down. First, I want to tell you, the art director, the studio art director over at Sony Santa Monica, and he goes by the name, if this is his real name, Raf Grassetti. This motherfucker is a talented motherfucker. We have showcased a number of his images. Now, outside of Sony Santa Monica work, he does these beautifully high detailed rendered images of genre characters, Ninja Turtles, comic characters, video game characters. Wow. Look what he just put up. He just tweeted this. Happy Halloween, he says. You goddamn right. Boom. He made a sweet tooth. Look at my boy. Look at my boy. Oh, it's beautiful. If you're listening and not watching, get thyself to a TV screen, madam or sir, because this is a beautiful version of Sweet Tooth, and it makes me go, I'm going to Sony Santa Monica, get my old job back, and we're going to make a Twisted Metal Sweet Tooth action adventure game with Raph being the art director. Come on now, you know that's bullshit, but that's amazing, right? All right, let us move on. Heads up, still a few days for this sale. I really want you to be aware of this if you got yourself a PC. The Steam Halloween sale is on right now, and it's pretty good. There's a lot of great stuff happening. If you're into horror or suspenseful games, look at this. Resident Evil 5 will cost you $5. I know it's not people's favorite, but I've never played it, and I was talking to Spaz. Spaz actually says, no, it's pretty good if you play it in co-op, right? There's a lot of good fucking shit on the sale that you can get right now. Not the least of which is the Capcom sale that's going on at the same goddamn time. Look at this. Look at their Resident Evil sale that is happening right fucking now. You can get RE7, RE2 Remake, RE3 Remake, Village, which I assume comes with the gold, and Reverse, all for $49. Village will only cost you $30 by itself. Resident Evil's $20. I'd get them all together if you don't have them. And then you get on down to these. Look at these goddamn thing. Resident Evil 6 is $7. 5 is $8. Now, I have never played these. I want to show you these because I've started to fall in love over the last year and a half with the Resident Evil lore, and I want to play everything now. So I'm going to get 5, I'm going to get 6, but then I've never played 0. That's only $5. I've never played Revelations 1 or 2. Revelations 2, 77 goddamn cockadoodie cents. Revelations, Resident Evil Revelations is $7. Come on now. This is a mother load of value, and it comes highly recommended. So I am going to be picking that up and recommend it. The last deal I'll tell you before we get into the actual news, look at this. Vampire survival game V Rising. This is apparently people really like this game. I hadn't picked it up. It's free until November 1st on Steam. I wish more console companies would do this kind of stuff. They do it a little bit, but not as much as Steam. Apparently it's a cross between kind of like a PvP, PvE game where you're a vampire and you're also building your castle with all kinds of cool Halloween and horror and torture and vampire shit. And this is free for the next couple of days. So highly recommended. Highly recommended if you're into such nonsense, but I certainly am. Spazbo wants you to know this. Oh, I'll do it. I'm doing it. Spazbo's been a member for 24 goddamn months. One of our lifers, long-term motherfuckers, and he is a gem of a player and a gem of a fella. He says, Jaffe, You need to play the Resident Evil Village DLC. It scared the shit out of me and I loved it. I finished Call of Duty campaign. We'll be talking a little bit about that later today. And I'm still obsessed with Marvel Snap. But tomorrow or tonight, if I game stream, that is the very next thing I am game streaming. And I did hear it's pretty good. Speaking of, here we go. Now, it's sitting at a 74 Metacritic. And I don't think that's saying what is in there is bad. I think they're complaining mostly. If you don't know, this is the winter's expansion. This comes with sort of a 4 to 5 hour. If it's me, it's like 12 hours, but it's like a 4 to 5 hour follow-up story from Resident Evil Village about Ethan Winter's daughter. It's called something Rose or whatnot. That's the main draw here. It also has third-person mode for Village, which was a first-person game. Whatever. I did the demo of that. Didn't care for it too much. And then it also has, I think it has some of the RE-verse content as well in there. So, but this is interesting. 74 for critics, 8.8 for users. So, but I do think the biggest complaint is really just that it's not that long. While Shadow of Rose feels cut a little short in terms of potential, says PlayStation Universe, it's still a great narrative-based DLC. The missing piece of basically talking about Rose, the daughter, from a playful point of view. The large section at the castle is certainly the most effective in the DLC, thanks to the skillful use of Rose's new powers, and you find them as a nuclei of the mega miss. I don't know what the fuck they're talking about there, but anyway, there you go. I'm picking it up. I'm looking forward to it. We'll see where it goes, but Spaz says it's fucking fantastic. There's a fella in the chat, a member of ours, who likes to go by the name of something I can't pronounce, but I'm going to give it my best shot, fellas, because that's the kind of fella I am. Sri Ratchikchi. He says, the ending was a little frustrating for me. Resident Evil, DLC, Village, Story arose, whatever. But otherwise, the DLC was a lot of fun. Great fast pace like RE3 Remake. Ooh, nice. And really creative scares. I loved RE3 Remake. Spaz says, RE-verse is not included in the expansion. It has its own battle pass, though, at $10. So what were the three things that come with this? There was the DLC, there was the third-person mode, and then there was one more thing that comes with the winter package, right? DLC, third-person. It says the arcade. Yeah, Mercenaries. I'm sorry, it's Mercenaries. Next is the Mercenaries additional orders. The arcade-like action shooting experience returns with additional stages and new playable characters, such as a fully prepped Chris Redfield, Carl Helsenberg, and blah, blah, blah. So, okay, yeah, I get Reverse and Mercenaries mixed up, but that's what it is. Okay. And yeah, if you own, I don't know if that's true, William Jackson. I own 8 and I had to pay $20 for it. William Jackson says it's free, meaning this DLC, if you own 8. That may be true if maybe you, I don't know. I kind of heard that as well, but when I went to pick it up, they charged me $20 for it. I think maybe it depends on the version you got. I have no fucking clue. No, Reverse is free. We're talking about the overall package, Winter's expansion. People in the chat are saying, no, it's free. Yeah, the Reverse, but we're talking about the expansion package, Winter's whatever. Jaffe says, Regard, do you think the Metacritic scores these days are different in the way the score is given compared to when they were in the past? I mean, yes, only in that life and people change and people come in that were influenced by past reviewers. And so that's going to affect their scores in their way. But if you're talking about the specific way that the algorithm calculates the aggregate or who they choose to be a part of the aggregate, I wouldn't know about that. But, you know, I mean, I know a lot of people shit on Metacritic, and I know a lot of people always have to remind others, including me, that the 70, well, actually, I'm thinking Rotten Tomatoes. The 74 is an aggregate score. Rotten Tomatoes is not an aggregate score, but the Metacritic score is a 74. I find it useful. I find it really, really valuable. Did I get a bonus for high Metascores when I was in the industry? Jimmy Gilchrist asked. No, but so that was one studio did that for, I guess, a couple of seasons or a couple of years, which was Warner Brothers, and they got a lot of shit for it. I thought they cut that, but I'm sure there are still bonuses. Look, you're a moron if you tie your bonuses to your rating. You know what you're doing if you tie it to your sales, right? Because who the fuck Well, you could get the best reviewed game in the world, but it's some artsy fartsy thing that nobody buys, and then you could get like a 50 on Metacritic, but it's a great fucking license that's good enough to sell 5 million copies. Come on now. So I would say fuck that. No, I've never seen a bonus in my career tied to that, but I've heard about it. Why am I eating? I don't know. Hey, let's move on. Look at this. Calisto Protocol, man. This is a real interesting story, and there has to be some other shit going on that's not reported here. If you don't know what's going on, the very cool looking, very gory, violent horror game comes out December 2nd, Calisto Protocol. According to the headline at Polygon, the Calisto Protocol proves too violent for Japanese censors. What? Sci-fi horror game and Dead Space spiritual sequel. And we'll be talking about the responses to the hands-on Callisto a little bit later in the show. But sci-fi game Calisto Protocol had the Japanese release canceled after the developer was unable to reach an agreement with Japan's video game age rating bodies CERO, C-E-R-O, which I'm sure stands for something. As of now, the rating cannot be passed, says the Callisto team. We have decided we would no longer be able to provide you with the experience you need. We hope everyone in Japan will understand. If you have already pre-ordered, we will refund you. So it's you know, and then it kind of goes on. The follow-up on Polygon says the statement implies Striking Distance was either unable or unwilling to make any alterations to the game that might have obtained it a rating and cleared it for release in Japan. Their top Z rating limits sales to players 18 or over. But let me tell you what games have made it through the Z filter in Japan, and Callisto hasn't. Think about that. CERO, which is the regulatory body, is known for taking a strict line on the levels of gore it considers permissible. Dismemberment is particular taboo. Again, this is all direct from Polygon. 2020's The Last of Us Part 2, for example, had all dismemberment removed for the Japan release, as well as the sex scene edited. And it did all that just to get the Z rating, which was 18 or over, right? Which is like RAO, but I guess those things sell in Japan. They don't even carry them here. But the interesting thing is where they say Striking Distance, the developer was unable or unwilling, because that's really the interesting story here, right? If they were unwilling, then you get to be like, hey, man, that's cool. They're standing up for their artistic principles. They're kind of like Tarantino, who's like, oh, China, you want me to cut this shit? Go fuck yourself. You're not fucking with my art. It's a great story. It's a great look. Unable probably is a... If I had to guess what I would guess, here's what happened. As you know, and as you will see later in this show today, Callisto delights in being a gory bloodfest, like a grindhouse snuff film almost, in terms of just how over the top it is. And I imagine the changes that were needed to pass Japan were so extreme in terms of limiting aspects of the gore engine, which is what the director calls it, Glenn Schofield, that they were like, okay, we could do this. We'll miss our date. It'll be 4 extra months of production. The console space is pretty much dead unless you're Nintendo in Japan. We're probably not going to make our money back, and it's probably not going to be worth it. And why don't we just kind of not release it there? And hey, we get a little bit of a PR bump because of it. That's what I think has happened. Because trust me, this would not be happening if it was the UK. They would bend over backwards to release it in the UK because the market's bigger. This is what Glenn says. He says, we have a gore engine. It's a lot of rendering, and you break up the characters into chunks, and then you cut them up with bones sticking out and all that. Then the rendering guys, they do their special thing on it, which makes everything look wet. And so every character had to be done that way. And however you go at it, chunks break off, parts of the face, parts of the head. My guess, though, is if you've got a system like that, it's very easy to go, how much blood? Let's dial the blood up, dial it down. How many chunks? Dial it up, dial it down. So maybe it was something else, or there was just a general blanket statement that this regulatory body said about Callisto, where they said it's going to be fucking too much work. It's just fuck it. There's no value there. The market's dead there. Fuck it. Who gives a shit? Let's see what the chat says. And then we are going to talk briefly, not even briefly, we're going to dive into this. Corey Barlog is mad. Well, what's he mad about, Jaffe, you ask? I don't know. He's probably mad that he can never truly be me. He's trying. See the beard? He's trying. But he's also mad about some shit that's happening with God of War Ragnarok. We'll talk about that. But first, let me see what the chat thinks about this. It's because of the budget, says Ahmed. Too long to do. That's what I would imagine. The game mechanics would probably have to change dramatically to get rid of limb cutting, says Zaf. Well, yeah, that's probably the thing. It's probably not so much the gore or even how much blood, how many chunks. Ravno says, what about green blood? If they really are literally talking dismemberment, well, yeah, I mean, that's probably crucial to a lot of the puzzles and how you deal with enemies, which makes me wonder what's going to happen with Dead Space. I assume that Dead Space was released in Japan. I don't know. Brian East, when he's looking at us talk about the engine with all the gore and stuff, he says, that sounds fun as fuck. Apologies to Japan in advance. Yeah, exactly. Ahmad says Jaffe owns the streets. Barlog owns the critics. You're goddamn right, sir. I'll take the streets any day. Okay. Well, the green blood was in reference to Germany, but that was a solve, is what I'm saying. In Germany, they were able to get by with Mortal Kombat by making the blood green. But their issue here is not blood. Their issue here is, what's it called? Is dismemberment, as they say. I'm going to check real quick before we move on about Dead Space. Dead Space release in Japan. Just want to see if it did. Here we go. It did. It came out. Oh, wait, that's talking about the anime. Hang on. Let's see the game. Oh, okay. So Dead Space was banned in Japan, but it says to protect copyright material. Dead Space was banned in Germany, China, and Japan. Okay, so yeah, they just said, fuck it, we're not coming out over there either. All right. But I assume it's okay to have, a guy with a chainsaw coming out of his head in Japan. That's not a problem. Although that's a good show from what I've watched so far. All right, Chainsaw Man, blah, blah, blah. Okay. Let's talk about what's going on with God of War. And while we're talking about it, I'm just going to let these beautiful credits slide up the screen there. All the people here really do make this show possible, along with our sponsors. So, give them a look with your eyeballs. Go visit them. There should be ads running at the bottom of the screen. I can't get them working suddenly. I'll figure that out for the next stream. But go visit these motherfuckers, because they really do keep the show going. And give a nod to your members at any tier when you see them. I appreciate it. Amai, who has been a member for 18 months, is Jaffe. I kind of blame Sony for talking about Ragnarok once a year, but retailers selling it should be 100% punished. Thought solutions. That's what we're going to talk about right now. We're going to dive into that right now. See how that works? That almost seems planned, but it wasn't, I promise. But yeah, there's what Raveno said. Okay. So the headline at VGC, and I think this dropped just today, a couple hours ago. The headline, hang on, are you guys getting the chat? You're not getting the chat. Hang on. There we go. All right. Sorry about that, fellas. The headline is completely fucking stupid. God of War director bemoans retailers selling Ragnarok early. So here's what went down. And this isn't the main thing. We're going to talk about the Thor fight. I'm not going to give anybody any leaks or anything. God of War Ragnarok's reportedly being sold at some retail stores 10 days before release, causing significant story spoilers to appear on the internet. Ravno says it's 50,000 fine per instance in the USA. Are you sure about that? I don't know if I believe that. I don't know if I believe you that is is it illegal in USA to break selling street date? I don't know. You might be right. I mean, I trust you, but is it breaking street date illegal? And a retailer breaches the contract, the manufacturer may impose fines, may withdraw privileges. Okay, so it's not illegal. No. That's what I thought. It is probably against contract. That they made, the deal that they made with Sony. That makes all the sense in the world that Sony would say, all right, go fuck yourself, right? I get that. I totally get that. But the truth is, these could be people who are like going, mom and pop businesses, which these are who are selling the game now. mom and pop businesses have been struggling for well over a decade in video games. They just can't compete with the big guys because they don't order as much volume, right? And so it could be these stores that are like, you know what, go fuck you. We've ordered all of our shit up until Christmas from Sony. We're not going to survive until January. The contract we have with Sony only says, hey, if you break a street date, you know, the first time you break it, you have to go a year where you don't get any Sony product or whatever. Well, in that case, it's like, fuck you. We will make a buttload of bank coming up on the holidays, and then we're going out of business anyway. I mean, that's just a guess. I don't know, because why would you do this otherwise? I don't believe that. I could be wrong. Brian East in the chat says, I heard Target did it. There is no way on God's green earth Target is selling God of War early unless it was just a fuck up that the instant it got caught, it got pulled. And that would have been news. That would have been part of the reporting. But there is absolutely no way that Target's like, fuck Sony, let's break the street date. What do you mean, Steffi? Steffi says, yes, the imaginary mom and pop shop. What I'm saying is there's so few of them that my assumption would be that that you're willing to take the hit because you're probably going out of business anyway. And you're like, you know what? We can sell every one of these fucking copies of God of War at a markup of $40, whatever. And it's just because why else would you do it? Why else would you fucking do it? Ahmed says, I didn't know DLCs receive physical box releases. Well, you know. Okay. Living Legend. Thank you for the super chat, buddy. I appreciate it. He says, hey, happy Halloween, Jaffe. Playing the Medieval remake on PS5, and I hope they release it on Steam in time for next Halloween.
Great fighting. You're an up-and-coming boxer.
I appreciate the ducat, sir. I appreciate the support. He says, I stick to this yearly tradition. I did not find the Medieval remake all that satisfying, truth be told. I am more of a Pumpkin Jack kind of fella. That, to me, is what the Medieval remake should have been. If you haven't played it, it's on all the systems. There's a little bit of a discount going on right now. But a lot of people I know love the Medieval. I don't know if you're from the UK. I know it was a much bigger title in the UK than here. But whatever floats your boat, baby. To me, I like the idea, of having a Halloween game tradition. But there's so many fucking games to play that I don't have time to replay games. Jake Z says but thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, Jake Z says, I started playing Pumpkin Jack the other day and found it basic. It is basic. It's absolutely, it's like Medieval. It is a throwback. What's great about it is there's tons and tons of variety of things to do in the game. I talked to the programmer. He was a one-man shop who made that game. The designer, programmer, all the same guy. He said, yeah, my biggest goal was almost every level I wanted something new and interesting to do. And I think it achieves that, and it's a lot of fun. But yeah, so Dream Corridor says 8 years ago, my local Walmart put Metal Gear Ground Zeroes a few days early, and their point of sale system wouldn't even allow it to be sold. I'm sure it's not a major retailer. I mean, here's what I'll tell you. This story, we assume it's happening because it's being reported. It's being reported that Sony Santa Monica is upset, understandably. And I understand retailers would be like, or journalists would be like, we don't want to tell you the name of the small mom and pop shop because we don't want to contribute to you going over there and buying a copy. But at the same time, you'd think somebody on Reddit, somebody somewhere would say, oh, it's these three stores. It's Game and Glory Days, a store in Nebraska, and it's, whatever. But, right? I'll tell you something, though. I'm almost certain some of the people who got preview copies have been leaking a lot of goddamn cockadoodie shit. Hello, Eddie Cardwell. Good to see you, buddy, as always. Okay, let's keep going with the story, though. Let's keep going with this because it's interesting. It goes a little deeper. It goes a little deeper. So this is where reporters kind of got wind of this. Several social media users have begun posting significant late game spoilers this weekend, including a video understood to be an entire conclusion of the game. Sorry to everyone that you have to dodge spoilers if you want to play the game fresh, says Barlog. Completely fucking stupid. You have to do this. This is not at all how any of us at Sony Santa Monica wanted things to go. He added, right now I can really understand the benefit of having just an installer on the physical disc, seemingly referencing the recent news that Modern Warfare 2's retail disc contains a tiny fraction of the game. Okay. So here's my thought on this. Okay. Let's assume the small business thing. There's nothing you can do about it. I don't think it should be illegal. There's a contract in place. Addy Pie says it should be illegal. There's a contract in place. And, if you break the contract, there are consequences to breaking a contract. I don't think you need to make a fucking law about it. But regardless though, let's assume the small biz thing is its own kettle of fish. Okay, fine. But I think there's a bigger issue, because I saw, even before this news broke on our Discord, I saw some Discord members complaining about leaks for God of War Ragnarok. And they were saying a lot of the leaks were literally in the hands-on preview videos, and sometimes even in a thumbnail of those videos. So even if you don't click on the video, as you're scrolling through YouTube or Twitter, you're going to see an image that spoils something, right? I look, let's put it this way. Everybody's talking right now, like this guy, Tom Henderson, who reports a lot of stuff. He says Ragnarok's Kratos versus Thor leak fight scene, that's not a spoiler, that's in the trailer, now has over 2.3 million views in 24 hours. Okay, that's what people are saying. Oh, somebody got the game that broke street date. Okay, but on the 22nd of October, which was 8 days ago, this is 8 days before the story broke, you can go to YouTube and you can see the entire Thor Kratos fight. And that's from a preview copy. So at first we were thinking, I was talking to some people, and it's like maybe Sony's intentionally wanting to leak some things. And I'll tell you why in a second. But the thing I don't understand, like, yeah, we just got a great super chat from Lord Garth. Good to see you, buddy, as always. Lord Garth says, why don't they just make it so it can't run until release? I would assume, I mean, they probably could. They could probably recognize the difference between a retail copy that was sold early and a press preview copy and go, if it's a retail copy, I mean, there's a lot of things they could do. I got into the early access of Hyenas, and which is that Sega multiplayer thing. And your name, your email is stamped all over that thing, and your IP is stamped all over that thing. So if you make footage, it'll be out there. I don't know why that's not in the press copies, but regardless though, that Thor Kratos fight, not to mention the thumbnails and the spoilers. I mean, Sony's sending out these I don't even know why you want to send them out so early. Send them out to the big guys early, but I'm looking at a bunch of fucking small YouTubers and shit that are getting copies of this, and that's fine. I don't begrudge them from getting copies, but what do you think's going to happen? Exactly this, because I'm telling you, where was the news that a store had broken a street date October 22nd, between October 22nd and today? It was nowhere. Well, it was 3 days ago, but it was like a week to go, and nobody said anything. And that video is up there on YouTube for 8 days. So I think that's a bigger problem for them, unless they're actually just kind of hoping that this leaks. And why in the fuck would anybody hope this leaks? Well, here's why. Listen to this. First off, this is a reporting from Forbes. Forbes is talking about why people would do this. There's money in leaking on YouTube. A YouTuber with 15,000 subs who uploaded the early Thor fight has 2.2 million views within the past day. Other clips have hundreds of thousands of views in a few hours. What that tells me is, annoying as leaks may be, there is substantial audience that also goes to seek them out on purpose too. And in that, it made me remember the filmmaker, the great filmmaker, Robert Zemeckis. He of Back to the Future and Death Becomes Her and Forrest Gump and Contact and on and on and on and on. He just directed Pinocchio for Disney, the live action with Tom Hanks, which I know a lot of people didn't like, but he's a Romancing the Stone. Who Framed Roger Rabbit? He's a hit factory, a walking hit factory. At least he was in the 80s and 90s. So if you remember the movie Castaway with Tom Hanks, that was the film that caused the big brouhaha about what in the fuck is going on. I hate trailers. They leaked the whole movie in a goddamn trailer. This is from Screen Crush. It says none of this is compared to Castaway, Zemeckis' 2000 film about a FedEx executive stranded all alone on a desert island. The final shot of the trailer is literally the final shot of the film, which is basically showing that he survived and got off the island. Hyperbolic trailer critics sometimes accuse coming attractions of showing the entire movie in 2 minutes. In the case of Castaway, they're kind of right. But this is the interesting part. This was apparently by design, says Robert Zemeckis. According to his understanding of movie marketing and potentially all entertainment marketing and everything else, people really want to know exactly everything they're going to see before they see a movie. He compared the spoiling of movies and trailers to eating at McDonald's. The reason McDonald's is a tremendous success, he says, is that you don't have any surprises. You know exactly what it's going to taste like. Everybody knows the menu. So, I would say that I did see some people in our Discord suggesting maybe Sony is kind of leaking some of this stuff, or they know this is going to leak and it's actually good for business. I don't know if that's true. But I can tell you that if you go by at least a 20-year-old theory, floated by one of the most successful filmmakers of all time, he hates spoilers. But he's like, look, it's what pays for the movies. It pays the bill. Ravnos, you go to hell. He says, coming from a filmmaker with a run-of-the-mill movies. Really? Back to the Future, Used Cars, Romancing the Stone, Death Becomes Her, Who Framed Roger Rabbit, Contact, Man on a Wire. What are you talking about? Come on now. That's them's fighting words. Anyway. There you go. I mean, that's what's happening in the world of God of War. I don't really care. I don't think Steffi says avoiding spoilers takes significant effort these days. I think it depends on who you follow. Obviously, Jaffe. But I mean, like, I haven't seen any spoilers. I just haven't. I'm not saying I know they're out there. I mean, I saw the Thor Kratos fight for about 5 seconds, and I'm like, well, I knew that was in there because the trailer, and I'm like, oh, that sounds pretty good. It looked pretty good, and I moved on with my life. But I don't, when Spider-Man, what's the newest one? Far From Home or whatever, No Way Home. I don't fucking know. When that came out, I didn't want to go to the theaters because of COVID. So I just went online and looked at all the spoilers, and I was fucking happy. Somebody's saying that Sony doesn't need to leak to sell God of War. I'm not saying it was intentionally leaked. I'm saying that they probably know when they sit there and marketing says, hey, Santa Monica, hey, Scott Rohde, we are going to send out review code to the usual suspects. But we're also, this time, we're going to start getting into some more mid-level and even small YouTubers that will also help proselytize the message. And if they say, wait, we know we can depend on IGN because we have relationships. They can't fuck us because we'll fuck them. But what's to stop some random, YouTube guy from fucking our whole thing? And that's probably when marketing said, if they said this, if Robert Zemeckis is right, they probably said, don't worry about it. If it leaks, it sucks, but it's probably an additional 25% in the opening weekend. So, yes, Jimmy Gilchrist, I did beat God of War. I did, the first one. Loved it. That was great. Okay, let's move forward, shall we? Coming, a little bit softer news, just giving you a heads up. If you're one of the PS Plus members, although I'm inching away from being a platinum member, there's simply no value to it so far for the most part. But the November games have leaked. Speaking of leaks, if you want to know, just briefly, Nioh 2. I've never played any of those games, either of those games. Lego Harry Potter, I have no interest in. And Heavenly Bodies, which I think, was it Brett Moore of our membership who's been saying, hey man, fucking Heavenly Bodies is a great goddamn cockadoodie fucking game. Gene Park, you old so-and-so. The great Washington Post journalist Gene Park, who, if you haven't read Gene Park's article on his obsession with cyberpunk and how it kind of helped him kind of deal with thoughts on life and whatnot, it's fucking awesome. Gene's in the chat, everybody. Give Gene a big old pickle tickle and show Gene, just in case he doesn't remember, the picture of the most beautiful person on the planet. I would appreciate it. I'd appreciate it. Hope you're doing well, Gene. Now listen. I do remember Heavenly Sword, absolutely. Tim Houston says, Jaffe, talk about the Bayonetta 3 Digital Foundry analysis butthurt that's floating around. I know nothing about it. I don't give a fuck, man. The game, we will talk about Bayonetta 3 a little bit later in the show. And what I can tell you is, fuck you, Darth Nugget. Gene is one of the best reporters out there. Don't fucking give him a fate, that lady. I don't, come on now. Show the man some fucking love. Oh, it's Gene Park. I thought it was Gene Simmons. Gene Park's okay too. Listen, I'm glad you're doing well, sir. Good to see you. Can we get a show with Gene, Colin, and me, says Dan Root. Dude, I would show up for anything if those guys asked me. Absolutely. But those guys are much bigger names than I am, right? So I wait for them to call me. I don't want to kind of, I don't want to prey upon our relationship and be like, I'd like to get some views. So if they call and they say, Jaffe, I want to do a show with you for, let's talk about this. Sure, I'll be there in a heartbeat. Goddamn heartbeat. But we'll talk about Bayonetta a little bit later. But in terms of the Digital Foundry stuff, I don't know. I don't care. The game has creativity and imagination to burn. It looks really fucking fun. It probably isn't going to do much better than the last Bayonettas, although because the Switch is just has so much heat on it, it'll probably do better simply by being on the Switch and being an exclusive. But, oh no, what's the complaint? That it doesn't look as good as what it should because it's a Switch game and the hardware's old and I don't give a fuck. I mean, I'm assuming that's what you're saying. And if that's what you're saying, my answer to that would be, I don't give a fuck. I play games because they're fucking cool and fun. And I would much rather play a game like Bayonetta that is filled with imagination. And you fucking turn into a train at one point. Right? The systems that have been introduced from 2 or for 3 that weren't in 2 or 1. There's a great Game Informer article this month that goes real deep into that game. What are you talking about? You're not going to play it because it's 30 frames? Fuck that. Who gives a shit? All right, let's move on. Hey, listen to this. I would never. Yeah, Regad says, I bet Jaffe is the God of War leaker. All I can tell you is all one needs to do is look at my history from before I was out of the industry to being out of the industry. I do not do that because I've been on teams. I know what it's like. It's horrible. It's fucking horrible. Tripster says, Jaffe, did having the best graphics play a role in your development of the first God of War? Yes, we made all kinds of choices and decisions and concessions to make sure our game looked great because we knew that would absolutely help with the sales. I'm not saying if you're making the game, caring about graphics is not an important part of the sales package. But what I'm saying is when you make a game and you clearly put your efforts elsewhere, like in the case of Bayonetta, maybe they could have run at 60 frames, but they couldn't have had all the particle effects. They couldn't have had as many enemies on the screen, on and on and on and on. They said, fuck it, we'll take 30. It's no one's going to care. No one's going to care. Tripster, that's very interesting, Tripster. I appreciate it. He says, I'm here to compliment you on the fact you achieve great graphics and great gameplay. Well, thank you for that. But this is what I always say. God of War was one of the hardest projects I ever worked on in my life. And one of the reasons it was so fucking hard was me and Tim Moss, who is the lead programmer, CTO, wanted to simply murder each other a large percentage of the time. Because he was always pushing tech and frame rate, and I was always pushing cool. And those things don't really dine well together. It's not quite oil and water, but it can often be. And so the hardest games to make tend to be the best ones. Not always, but tend to be, because you have a lot of alpha personalities pushing for their vision. And in that case, we had Shannon to kind of manage it just beautifully. So we ended up getting what we needed, and the game ended up being great. Okay. Listen to this. We're starting to hear about some of these new Sony PS5 and PC, probably. We know that's true. Service-based games. The 10 that Jim Ryan has greenlit. PlayStation London Studios. They're making, this is all we know. These are the guys that made SingStar, iToy, Wonderbook. What? Okay. They're still alive because they're in England and they know Jim Ryan. That's my theory. It's like Jim Ryan probably knows the CT is, fuck it, we'll put you on the books. I mean, they've never made a hit, never made a real hit. I mean, SingStar's a big hit. I'm sorry, but that's an anomaly. Not terrible to say. I'm not saying they're not talented. They're very talented. They've been in business for a long time. I'm just saying that they don't really have their finger on the zeitgeist, or maybe they just show up when Sony says, hey, we need somebody to make a peripheral game. Regardless, this new game they're making is not a peripheral game. It is an untitled online co-op combat game, is what they're calling it, set in a fantasy world of London. This is what one of the heads of the company of the developer says. It is our most ambitious game to date. We're going to take all of that innovation DNA that we put in our other games and apply it to this online co-op combat game. There's something really cool about this too. I want to tell you that has to do with how Sony greenlights games. Wait. Tim Houston says, I don't get why folks get so hostile when folks find tech analysis interesting. They aren't interesting unless they're based on the truth. I'm not hostile. I don't find it uninteresting, but I do get my guard up when people judge the game or the medium on this assumption that most people show up for the tech. And I find that is the frustrating part, not because they show up for the tech, but because it reflects such a lack of self-awareness about where they sit in the pecking order of valuable customers. If we know this is true, because what is the system that is primed to have the best holiday is not PlayStation 5 or Xbox. It's the Switch. We know this is true because Fortnite is still making tons of fucking money and Roblox is still making good money. So I just think that that's what gets me more, is this self-awareness that everyone feels this way, right, fellas? Am I right? Okay. Let's go back to this new game Sony London is making. Tara Saunders is talking about this. She says, in our concept art, you're seeing a take on modern fantasy London. Our overarching theme is about bringing fantastical and magical elements and intersecting that with familiar worlds. And you don't get much more familiar than London, do you, boys? Here's a picture right here. And it does look a little bit like they're going, not Fortnite, but they're clearly going a little realistic, but it's a little cartoony, which obviously brings the budget down. Absolutely. That's how it works. That's how it fucking works. But it looks kind of cool. It's a co-op game. It's a service-based game. Probably going to be available day one on PC and on the PlayStation as, as per what we heard Herman Hulse say the other day in an interview where he was talking about, what games are going to drop when and where, and all the service games. He's like, it probably will be PC. Listen to this, though. This is interesting. I'm going to tell you how they came up with the idea. Because okay, I'll just read. One of the heads of the studio says, the game idea came out of an ideation process that we embarked on with the whole team. We created a high-level briefing document, but with a lot of latitude and scope. And the team came up with loads and loads of ideas. We got the inspiration on the process by talking to our colleagues at Guerrilla Games. We were fascinated by how they went from Killzone to Horizon Zero Dawn. And this was the exact process. So the team came up, he continues, with a load of ideas over a period of months. And we refined them down until we got to a really small short list. Then we went out and spoke to PlayStation leadership. We spoke to other PlayStation studios. We spoke, very importantly, to the team about which ones they're most passionate about. Okay, now listen. This concept, which was the UK fantasy co-op game, scored super high in all those areas. We pulled then listen to this. This is what I find fascinating. We pulled hundreds of gamers in the UK and US through an anonymous poll, which some of the shortlisted ideas, and this was the one that came out on top. Okay, now I did this before any. I'm bragging. After God of War, we did an anonymous survey as well that we sent out to gamers all over America and the UK through a service. And we gave them like 6 one-page pitches. And we wanted to see, what the response was. So what I love about this, though, is it's not just, what do you want to make? There is some awareness of taking a lot of different people into account, not just at the studio, but even the audience to go, is this going to work? Sometimes that's dangerous because a really outside the box vision probably isn't going to survive in this that well. But then again, a really outside the box vision probably doesn't need to be having, $80 to $150 million spent on it, before you know if it's actually viable or not. I'll tell you what, man, let me just tell you something. I was so excited because one of the games that we sent out in that survey was a first-person shooter, bear with me, set in the Civil War. And I know that sounds potentially dumb, but when you actually research it, I mean, everything from they had submarines in rivers, they had hot air balloon fights. I mean, there were some fringe fucking weapons and tactics and abilities to play that I was like, this could be awesome. I mean, obviously you got to deal with the fucking Civil War and all that shit, but it was cool. But that one came back and it ranked probably dead last. So what do I know? But I was excited about that one. But it's kind of cool to see Sony's kind of continuing to evolve and refine how they make decisions about what actually gets funded. Speaking of which, give me a minute. Let me take the bubbly. Hang on now. Oh my God. Let me just settle for a second. Halloween is coming. Yeah. I'm pretty good at that. I'm a pretty good singer. Yeah, we already started a real life Civil War, right? Fucking attacking Nancy Pelosi's husband is going to be our Franz Ferdinand moment, I assume, but we'll see. People are like, what? The band? Shut up, go to school. Listen. This is weird. PlayStation's building a new studio to work with Naughty Dog on an unannounced game. This is news coming out of everywhere, but I'm looking at IGN right now. Job listing shows the new teams being created in collaboration with PS Studios Visual Arts. These are the guys in San Diego that do motion capture, cinematics, animation. Mikey Mumbauer, who is now leading up the studio that is doing John Garvin's new game, Ashenfall, is used to run that. And he forever was trying to get that group brought into the fold to make games. And they almost did it, but it sounds like they're still trying that vision of his. They're teaming up with Naughty Dog. They're going to make a Naughty Dog game. It says in the job wanted ad, high visibility product being developed by collaboration with Naughty Dog. Though currently unannounced, we have a clear vision and plan to release using our existing expertise and premier talent. We will guarantee a high quality visual bar for the game and a compelling experience for our players. The person who gets the job needs to be proficient in all aspects of AAA game production and management, and has published at least 2 AAA games previously. I like how they say has published, which is already putting it in the past tense. And then they say previously. So it's like, you don't need both. And the fact that you're writing like that makes me wonder, is it a test for someone to go, that's not, I probably not. I should just shut the fuck up. But the point is, there have been a couple of, rumors going around that job postings are saying come work on a beloved Naughty Dog franchise, PlayStation franchise. So maybe it is the new Uncharted, or maybe it is a Jack and Dexter. Who the fuck knows? But we will see. But they're investing. They're continuing to make games and see where things go. So I'm excited. But that's your news on that. Listen to this. Speaking of Sony, we got some Sony news, baby. Come on now. Naughty Dog. Who said Naughty Dog is broke? Somebody in the chat says Naughty Dog has no money. What are you talking about? Oh God, Jimmy Gilchrist. No. Jimmy Gilchrist says, Jaffe, apply for the job and work for Naughty Dog. Why? No. Colin says he thinks it's Uncharted. I think that's probably true as well. Okay. The Last of Us multiplayer game also has a job listing out. Somebody on Reddit found this. Naughty Dog is currently looking to hire a producer, live ops with expertise in production roles supporting a AAA free-to-play live title. The job listing doesn't mention The Last of Us multiplayer, but The Last of Us is getting, obviously, factions or whatever they're going to call it, the standalone game. So people are assuming. But it has been reported, this is from Games Radar, that Last of Us multiplayer game will be live servicey. And considering the job description also asks for experience in customer support, player support, community management, people are assuming that is the case. I mean, obviously, what a clusterfuck. I don't think anyone is thinking that Last of Us multiplayer is not going to be free and is not going to be day one drop on PC. Of course it is, as it should be. And they'll make bucket loads of money if it's any good, and it probably will be. Do I think the new Last of Us? Yeah, John, I absolutely think it's coming day and date. Of course. I mean, why? Literally last week, Herman Hulst is saying. It's like these service games, it's about attachment, it's about player base, it's about social currency. So people, continually come in, so people have people to play against, and putting it on PC, putting it on PlayStation, you're gonna, have a much better shot in hell than you would have otherwise. Okay. Speaking of games, I mean, all this shit's coming from, there's a company in China called Virtuos, and they just put out a recruitment video, and in the recruitment video, oh, I agree with that. Painkiller says these live service games would have a bigger base if they were on mobile. That's true too. And they might be. I mean, you don't, all one needs to do is look at Fortnite, Roblox, on and on and on to say that if you can put it on mobile and PC and your console and it's crossplay, you're not halfway there, but that's kind of the business model at this point. Kind of the business model. But anyway, so Virtuous put out a video ad saying, "Hey, come work for us in I think it's Montreal office." And in this video, there was a book, which was the art of Metal Gear Solid. And it was allowed to be kind of shown in the framing. They could have cut it out. They could have cropped it. There was nothing else in the video of other people's IP. It was just Metal Gear Solid. And the rumor has been going on that they're working on an unannounced AAA action adventure anyway. The rumor has been going that they have been given the Metal Gear Solid license. And apparently people are thinking they're making, and this is just more confirmation, Metal Gear Solid 3 Snake Eater. According to the description, the remake will feature AAA quality level art, 4K graphics, and set piece destruction. Now, all I can tell you is I know a lot of people are pissed about remakes and remasters and whatnot. I get it. We always want to see new things and whatnot. But I'll say, man, to see Metal Gear given the Resident Evil 2, Resident Evil 3 remake treatment, I mean, I would love that with 1, but Snake Eater was great. I love Snake Eater. It's probably I don't know. I love all the mainline Metal Gears except 5 because I haven't played it. So I don't know if I like Snake more than Guns the Patriots, but all I can tell you is that if this is kind of has the same level of quality that Resident Evil has in their remakes, wow, what a fucking great product. I'm very much looking forward to it. Ravno says, why remake when you can just make a new one? Because everything gets more expensive. The story is written. The structure is done. The characters are already designed. I mean, it's hello, Nikki T. It's, and it's a brand that people love, that if it's given the Resident Evil treatment, my guess is it would, especially if you're Konami, who's trying to, reamp your brands like Silent Hill and Metal Gear, there's probably a good way to kind of get it back in people's minds and good graces. So, but I don't know. I don't know if this is what they're making, but all signs continue to point towards a Metal Gear remake, Metal Gear Solid 3, I guess, remake in development. We will see. Okay. I want to show you something here, which I find super annoying for a couple of reasons. But if you look over at your television, I'll tell you what, look at your TV screen, and I'm going to show you something while I'm reading to you. Okay. This is a story where Ikea has reached out to a solo game developer, and they say, hey, we need you to make changes to your game because you're pretty much ripping off Ikea, right? That's what they're saying. Okay. This is reporting from a lot of people, but I'm reading the article specifically on Kotaku, okay? In an unexpected move, they say, furniture giant IKEA has sent a solo indie dev to cease and desist letter demanding he make changes to his unreleased survival horror game set in an IKEA-like furniture store. Lawyers representing IKEA claim the game commits trademark infringement because some press outlets have drawn comparisons between their official brand and the game. The Swedish firm have given the developer 10 days change the game and remove all indications that are associated with the famous IKEA stores. This guy has Kickstarter campaign who's making the game. He's got about 50K raised. Nothing in the game says IKEA. So it's not literal IKEA. And if you read the Kotaku article, this is kind of the issue I take with this. If you read the Kotaku article, you know, they're kind of trying to poke holes in this. Like, this is bad that IKEA is protecting their brand. Now, I think IKEA is stupid. Fucking people love to make fun of shit. It doesn't, you know, setting a horror game in Starbucks. I mean, it's clear Five Nights at Freddy's was inspired by Showbiz or Chuck E. Cheese. It's not like Chuck E. Cheese got hurt because of it. Probably got more people there, right? It's not, if you think this is going to hurt your brand, you're a fucking idiot. But maybe they just don't want a slippery slope. I don't fucking know. But for Kotaku to act like IKEA doesn't have a pot to piss in, let me just fucking show you. Denova says you can't make parodies anymore. Isn't there a clause for this? Well, first off, just because you're being sued doesn't mean it's illegal. You can sue anybody for anything. This is not the court saying this is not parody. However, if it's going to be parody, I mean, he's not claiming it's parody, but the article goes on to say, like, you know, it says the lawyers told the developer, you can, of course, easily make a video game set in a furniture store that does not look or suggest IKEA. You can easily make changes to your game to avoid these problems, especially since you do not plan to release till 2024. And that's not wrong. But, you know, finally, I just want to show you some of the parts that they have issue with. IKEA is a company, the article continues, with revenues of $25 billion a year. Jacob Shaw is the developer in the UK who tried to raise $11,000 on Kickstarter. So they're kind of painting it as this sort of David and Goliath thing and like the big evil corporation, but they're not wrong, right? If you look at your screen, here's what IKEA is complaining about. They say, oh, the store exterior looks just like IKEA. Okay, let's do a little cross reference there. Hang on. Okay, does it? Well, let's find out. This is what the IKEA looks like in real life, and this is what it looks like in the game. Okay, come on. Okay, but fine. Maybe that's just a nice little coincidence, right? All right, let's keep moving on. Then they want you to know, they say that the store layout is very IKEA-like. And it's like, well, okay, maybe it is, maybe it's not. But they're saying the furniture is very similar to IKEA furniture. I don't know if I agree with that one. If you actually look at what IKEA furniture kind of looks like these days, it's not the minimalist shit that they used to have. It's much more just gen pop shit. It just kind of looks like furniture, right? But I think between the layout of the stores being this big open furniture store with these little almost like cubicles where the furniture is set up, the exterior, and then look at this. Then they say also the employees are wearing the exact same outfits. And they're not wrong. The IKEA people wear these yellow striped shirts and blue pants. Look at the monsters in the game. Come on, man. This is not a coincidence. This guy said, I want to basically make a game and I'm putting it in IKEA. I can't call it IKEA, but it's IKEA. And the company got wind of it because the press started reporting it. There wasn't a lot of press comparing it to IKEA, but a handful. And the comments were like, it's just like IKEA. And it is just like IKEA. So, own it or don't. But don't act like IKEA doesn't have a pot to piss in, because they certainly do. They certainly fucking do. Whether they should sue them or not, that's a different question. But it is pretty, it's pretty dumb for a journalist to act, write an article that says this is dumb for a big company to be coming after the little guy who's just making a funny, stupid game. That's a good article. Don't write an article acting like you're going to take apart the lawyer's claims about similarities when you have no pot to piss in, because that just looks like a fucking idiot. You look like a fucking idiot. All right. Okay. Hang on. Let's see. What do we got here? What do we got here, fellas? We got a lot of news, I'm telling you. Let me tell you something. Venom Quest says, absolutely a movie or game is able to reference a real in-store brand. And for most of the aspects, IKEA doesn't have a pot to piss in. You cannot reference a real store brand in a movie if they don't want you to. You absolutely cannot. You can for some reason. Oh, hey, we got a lawyer. We got money bags in the chat. Novadamus, help me out here, right? So knockoff is different, Mr. K. Look at so if you're a writer, my understanding is if you write prose, then it's different. That's why you see Stephen King referencing all kinds of pop culture in his books, right? But if you make a TV show
Great fighting! You're an up-and-coming boxer.
And you put a Domino's pizza box in your show, Domino's could absolutely say, look, here's a cease and desist. You have to change that or take it off the air or we will sue you and we'll probably win. Unless it is a parody. But the guy's not claiming it's a parody, so I don't fucking know. Stoner Joe, buddy, good to see you, man. Thank you for this super chat, and good to see you as always. He says, Alex Jones has to pay $1 billion for what reason? Well, he's not actually going to pay $1 billion, not just because he doesn't have it, and not just because the company he co-runs and owns and whatnot is filed for bankruptcy. But my understanding with the Alex Jones thing is that there's also a law in place that kind of caps punitive damages, and certainly $1 billion is well above that threshold. Hello, Carl D. But you know, I didn't watch the trial. I know he said a lot of stuff that was clearly demonstrably false, and it was also harmful and hurtful, and it was also threatening to people. So I'm sure a lot of it is punitive. So I guess that would be why he's having to pay it. I mean, forget the fact that what he said was just so classless and cruel and mean and selfish. Forget that, because you can't really make that illegal to be a prick. But the fact that it also happened to do with a bunch of dead fucking kids is just so far beyond what should be acceptable for a human in our society, that we're willing to defend that. I mean, a lawyer has to defend it, but I mean, you know, come on now. So that would be my response. He has a right to say it, but if he's lying and they can prove he's lying and people were harmed by his lies, they have a right to sue him. Otherwise, you could say anything you want without libel and slander laws and people get away with it. William Jackson says, back to the Ikea guy, he says, either way, the dev probably doesn't have to have the money to go to court. That's exactly what he says, by the way. He says, literally, he says, where did it go? He's like, yeah, I got to change it. I can't fight these guys in court. Okay. So Novadamus, our resident lawyer, says, I'm not commenting on this. Phew. Coward. Run for the hills, you coward. Yeah, I mean, he could fix it real easy. Brian E says there's some routes you can go to make it acceptable. Yeah, change the outfits, change the color scheme. He says all the furniture that IKEA says is IKEA-like furniture. First off, is like, go fuck yourself, IKEA. It's not, 1996 when IKEA was like a very clear brand. You guys make all kinds of shit now. And frankly, he bought all of his furniture at an asset store, either Unreal or Unity or something online. So, that's maybe they discovered he did it, but that's that, he didn't do that. Okay. Save that one. Let's talk about Call of Duty just for a moment, shall we? So I wrapped up Call of Duty campaign last night, and I'll be doing a review tonight or tomorrow or the next day, depending. But overall, I liked it. I thought there was some just really fucking good stuff in there, but it has issues, blah, blah, blah. But this is specifically about Call of Duty, the campaign, right? And well, no, it's actually about all, because the title's dropped now. The title right now in terms of reviews is sitting at, a lot of people are holding off their reviews because they want to play the multiplayer fully and the campaign and kind of give it a mixed review. Right now, Hobby Consuelos gives it an 85, Actu gives it an 80, and then everybody else is just text on the campaign. So they haven't really figured out if it's going to be close to the user score on Metacritic, which is currently sitting at a 71. So I like the beta of Call of Duty. I enjoyed it a lot. Looking forward to playing more of it. But the campaign, I'll give you my review soon. But overall, I really, really liked it. But I want to give you some Call of Duty news. Okay, some Call of Duty news. Because it's weird. Some weird little stories floating around. First one, Kotaku saying, I need an education on this. Because I don't understand why these people are upset. Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2 fans can't believe they have to play in fair matches, says the headline on Kotaku. And I'm like, well, what's that about? I want to know what that's about. So I read this story, and it's basically going on to say, and here's like what this is like Tim the Tapman, right? Going, they don't like skill-based matchmaking. And I'm like, well, what do you want? The article says skill-based matchmaking is exactly what it sounds like. It's a feature usually employed in multiplayer games that pairs you with other players around your skill level. Only level 10 months after a game launch, but still want to check out. Only level 10 months after a game launch. Man, there needs to be a comma or something. Only level 10 months after a game launch, but still want to check out the multiplayer, no problem. Skill-based matchmaking should match you with other folks also around level 10. Getting better at the game and leveling up rapidly, the game should, again with emphasis on the word should, recognize the progression, placing you with others that are equally improving in skill. It doesn't always work out that way, but that's the general idea. Folks online aren't too happy with the feature implementation in competitive games. Some have brought up how competitive shooters back in the day, such as Halo 2, apparently didn't have it and were still great fun. Others have said they straight up hate the feature. A few have questioned whether skill-based matchmaking belongs in Call of Duty games at all. What? Why would you not want this? This is like stepping in, to a boxing match with Tyson in his prime, and it's like you've been boxing amateurly for like 2 months, and you're like, I really like this boxing thing. Well, you should fight Tyson then. What are you talking? I don't understand how gamers are literally complaining. What do you want? I mean, unless what you really want is to just fucking slaughter the fuck out of newbies, and that's the fun for you, and I'm sure that's some people, but most people, that's what they want. Sven says matchmaking skill-based is awful. You need to be specific. You can say it's awful, but it's not going to go anywhere. But explain to me what's bad about it, because okay. So Carl says matchmaking should be removed in general. Bring back dedicated servers and communities. Kyler says matchmaking is niche and the players don't want it. What? So what you're saying is the vast majority of this insanely popular franchise, that is usually the number one selling, if not it's the number 2 selling best game of the year. You are suggesting that people should just jump into the deep end of the pool, and if you swim, you swim, and if not, you need to get good. And you really think as game budgets go higher and higher and higher, and the visual fidelity that you demand and the improvement in production value that you demand, and all of the modes and all of the, running of the service that you demand getting more and more costly, you don't value the fact that, hey, if we put this, it's like making a $300 million movie in black and white slides about, the oil spill from the Exxon Valdez. I'm sure it's interesting to some people, but what business is that? If you want that kind of game, go play, what's the game that was out this year? It has Sands in the title. It's very hardcore shooter, not like Arma, but it's Operation Sandstorm. Go fucking play that. Da Vinci's Demon says matchmaking would not be an issue if lobbies could stay afloat. They change it often. I don't know what that means. Lobbies could stay afloat. An average player means 3 greats and 2 like on each team. I'm not sure what you're talking about when it comes to that. Mr. K says they just like it because people abuse it. They make a new character at level 0, and even though they're pros and they get matched with noobs and wreck them, that's their complaint. Okay, then the complaint isn't skill-based matchmaking. The complaint is fix that, which maybe their whole phone system where you have to have an account is going to help. I don't fucking know. But ultimately, the complaint isn't about matchmaking, because if you just get rid of matchmaking, you're still going to be being put in lobbies with people that totally wreck you, because you're going to have, the Call of Duty world champ that gets randomly dumped into a lobby with somebody who's playing it for the first time. And the minute they get slaughtered, they say, nope, never again. I'm not playing this piece of shit. And they take it back to the store. And the idea of solving it with servers, those days they're not gone as a hardcore game or as a niche game. And they're not gone as maybe if the developer has time to kind of, put in it as a backup plan. But the average consumer does not have the desire or the time to go into a server and look for the rooms and look for all the checks of like, is this a friendly fire game? And is this a game on these 3 maps? But I don't want this mode on that map. They don't want that. Dream Corridor says players want rank-based matchmaking. Yeah, why? Because rank-based is not about skill. Rank-based is about how much time you've played. So I could eventually prestige Call of Duty if all I do is run around like a shit player, which is what I am, and eventually get up there with the best of the best. But I don't really deserve to be up there. And if you put me in a matching system that puts me in the same lobby as guys that deserve to be there, I'm going to get my ass kicked. So I don't understand. Okay, so Sven says the problem with matchmaking, skill-based, is it's good for noobs. Okay, I got that. But when you progress, you hit a wall. Why? There's no variation in player skills anymore, and it becomes sweat lobbies. No fun. I'm currently playing Marvel Snap. Marvel Snap has about 6 invisible tiers between 0 and 100. And I'm at like 49 right now. And as you get closer and closer to the top, different cards become available. And obviously you get matched with people who are closer to your ability. But in that case, you're being put into those tiers because your amount of wins and losses. Okay. So it is still judging your skill. Call of Duty, I can just play deathmatch all day and get lucky on teams and have nothing to do with the success. I think skill-based is trying to give you the most competitive game you can get. I don't understand why that would be a problem. Nimoy says, why not just have both kinds of matchmaking, let users choose? Sure. But the problem with that, though, is every single decision you make like that, and trust me, even though the game flopped, we dealt with this constantly on Drawn to Death. Darth Nugget says the same thing. Why can't they have different modes where skill-based is active, one where it isn't? They can, and certainly on a game like that's as successful as Call of Duty, you don't worry as much about splitting your player base, but certainly that has to be a concern, right? You know, the minute you say this is skill-based and this is servers, or this is skill ranked in servers, now you've split your player base by 2/3 if you only focus on one. So I'm just saying, I come from it with a developer background and somebody who's made a couple of multiplayer shooters. Neither did very well, but we were always assuming, and maybe this is the wrong assumption, which is maybe why our games didn't do that well, but we were always assuming what the player wanted was the most competitive edge of your seat matches that you could get, because that in our minds is the most fun. If you're slaughtering people, or if you're getting slaughtered, I never really understood the value of that. But I appreciate some of you do, I suppose. Listen to this. This we can all agree on. This is weird. Modern Warfare 2 crossplay can't be disabled on Xbox and PC versions. This is coming from Video Games Chat. Here's what they're saying. Not Video Games Chat, Video Games Chronicle, sorry. Some players prefer to turn off crossplay in order to ensure their opponents and teammates are using the same hardware. I agree. Console, this is the most important one. Console players may wish to turn off crossplay because most PC players use a mouse and keyboard, and PC versions of games are more susceptible to cheat software. Absolutely 100%. Absolutely 100%. Meanwhile, because console versions tend to have aim assist as an option, some PC players prefer to only play against other PC players to avoid playing against aim-assisted opponents. It's weird that it's available on PS4 and PS5 that you can only play against PS4 and PS5 players. But if you're playing on PC or you're playing on Xbox, you can't turn it off. You have to have it. Now, I do think at a meta level, you can turn off crossplay on the Xbox at sort of a system-wide level, but I do not think, I know you can't do that without a patch on the PC. So I don't know why they did that. You know, it's very unusual. I don't think, you know, there was also a bunch of news dropping recently about the PlayStation exclusive benefits coming to the Call of Duty, which ironically, I mean, I don't want to get into the acquisition shit, but ironically, you know, it's kind of like, really, Jim Ryan, you're going to totally trumpet your, yeah, he's like, fuck you, Jaffe. I'm not here to be friends. I'm a businessman. I'll do anything to win. I don't give a fuck. I don't give a fuck. He's like Terry Silver and Cobra Kai. But anyway, it is weird. See, this is what the article says. The article says, Multiplayer First says, if this is part of the PlayStation exclusive benefits that Sony and Activision have agreed upon, it's a little weird it's not used as a selling point. Unless, of course, there's a bug or Sony and Activision know how much of a ruckus this will cause in the Call of Duty community. Yeah, I don't understand this. It's very strange. I'd love to get some details on why this is the way. But if you're curious, here is what you get on PlayStation exclusive if you buy Call of Duty on PlayStation, which is, I'm glad I bought Call of Duty on PlayStation because it matters. They don't have any exclusive content, but they really kind of sort of do. Because here's what they got. Battle Pass bundle bonus. Okay. Unlock new gear and goodies even faster on the PlayStation version. PS players that purchase a bundle pass bonus get an additional 5-tier skips for a total of 25 skips. Double XP points every single goddamn Call of Duty month. PlayStation users can get a weekend of double XP events. 24-hour duration, a day, sorry. Combat packs. Get a free in-game bundle item each Call of Duty Modern Warfare season. Operator skins, weapon blueprints, emblems, and much more. You can only get that for a limited time if you're PlayStation. Listen to this. PlayStation Party bonus. If you're playing on PlayStation in a party, players that play together receive 25% bonus weapon XP. So you're basically, if you play on PlayStation, you're going to level up and be more of a force faster. Okay? The bonus does count when playing with cross-platform teammates. And finally, extra loadouts. So you get an additional 2 loadout slots ready for customize when you usually only get, I think, 3 until you reach level 4. I don't remember yet. It's not, Tim Houston says a bunch of not pay to win stuff. It's not, that's tricky. If you're just talking about the cosmetics, you're absolutely right. It's a bunch of it's not pay to win. Who gives a shit? But some of the things, they are offering content you can't get that's just cosmetic, but they're also offering a number of ways to speed up or to accelerate your advancement, which with that advancement comes better weapons, better gear. So Carl D says, why do you need that stuff? If you take Call of Duty seriously, I don't, but if you take, yeah, right. AJH says 8 XP boost or pay to win. That's why. That's why people would care. And that's why if you have a choice to buy it on PlayStation or PC or Xbox, or sorry, PlayStation, yeah, PC or Xbox, you go PlayStation. It's pay to win without the pay, says Ravnos. Well, that's a different thing, right? I mean, that in some ways it goes back to the conversation about skill-based matchmaking, right? Ultimately, most people don't really want a fair fight. They want to feel good about themselves. They want to see things level up. They want to play with their buddies. And that is the secret sauce that makes Call of Duty so successful year after year after year. But you're absolutely right. Call of Duty, the moment they did Modern Warfare 1, the original, they absolutely turned it into a worse game in terms of just a sport. Because if you remember, the old Call of Duties just had the weapon pickups. And you had a finite number of weapons, and they all were very distinct. Now, it's you use your time. The more you play, the more you get, the more unbalanced the game goes. So yeah, if it's chess, I've played chess for 20 hours longer. I have the queen who now has a sniper rifle. That's basically what it is. You don't have to pay for it, but you're still fucking up the design, which I fucking hate. Okay. It seems like a new player type shows up and murders. I don't know if that's pay to win. In Call of Duty, I don't know if it's a new player, unless that is somebody who's gaming the system and making a new account. Dream Quarter says the PlayStation party bonus is substantial. 3 buddies and I were on PS5 progressing like crazy a few nights ago. Right. I mean, absolutely. Okay. Well, anyway, there you go. There's some Call of Duty information for you if you're looking to pick it up. I loved the beta. I thought it was great. I really, really enjoyed it. Thought it was a great deal of fun. And I'm looking forward to jumping in there and playing. I will be giving you a review on the campaign, but I do want to show you a couple of campaign things really quickly, though, really, really briefly. Because I just want to just get your thoughts on this. Why would it be pay to win if it's skill based, as annoyingly unknowable? Well, because skill, it is skill based, but you can do better if you have better weapons. So your skill is directly affected. It doesn't have to be. If you're a genius Call of Duty player, multiplayer, and you're playing with a fucking tiny little, shotgun or a handgun, you'll still be able to win. But I'm not avoiding questions, you fuckers. I'm busy. I'm doing a show. I'll get to it. I don't know, maybe drop some money and guarantee that I'll read it. It's not that I never avoid questions. I just don't see them. But now that you've made a stink, and because I like you, although you're fucking weird, Eric Lennon, I will read it. But first I want to talk. Let me read your question first. Let me get Eric. He's a child. Let me read the child. He's like 8 years old. Let me read it. Hang on. Eric wants to know what? Oh, Xbox One. Thank you, buddy. Xbox One, PlayStation Lost. That is his name. He clearly is a very mature human who loves the art form and not the console wars, but he's dropped a ducat in there, and I want to say thank you for that, buddy. I appreciate that, Xbox One. Not a problem, sir. And Eric says, Jaffe, answer me this. If you're a gameplay first designer, and Eric Williams seems to be as well, why did you choose Corey and not Eric to direct God of War 2? Well, because when I designed God of War 1, I was all about trying to tell story and gameplay, and I was trying to be, make a game that felt like an adventure movie. And I didn't have my my come to Jesus moment of like, I don't know if that works as well as pure mechanics. It might, blah, 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 blah. And so Corey and I spent a lot of our time talking mostly about narrative in gameplay. And so that's why. Eric honestly wasn't on my radar, not because, Eric's a fucking monster, but Eric at the time at least, and I don't even think he came up in the discussion. We met with Donald Mustard in Utah, who had done Advent Rising, which I thought was really flawed, but awesome. Thank God he turned us down because he ended up making fucking Fortnite. No, it wasn't like, it's like I could pick Eric. Eric, for whatever reason, I can't remember, was not on the, was not in the running. Not because we didn't value him greatly. Maybe we just assumed he wanted to stay in combat, or maybe he told Shannon he was going to, I have no idea. I have no idea. Okay. Ahmed, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says, after Eric's question, how long do you think the kids in Lord of the Flies could live off the wonton excess fat of your decaying body? Over under 6 months? Well, first off, they need to, they'd have to eat through Piggy first, right? Let's be clear. And I would die, and I would take out the fucking conch with me. It would shatter under my heavy set frame. And the kids would have no way to communicate and decide, and they would all descend into chaos sooner. So would I die? Yes. Would they eat me? Maybe a little bit. But before you know it, they would all just be killing each other in seconds flat. Don't fucking come at me with Lord of the Flies and act like I don't know the characters. Act like I don't know the subtext. Who the fuck you think you're talking to? I could talk Lord of the Flies all day. Let's move on. Okay. It's a great book. One of the few books in high school they make you read, and when you read it, you're like, that's pretty fucking good. Most books they make you read are like, really? Could you fucking stop with this horse shit? Nobody fucking wants to read Catcher in the Rye post 2000. Come on now. But no, the Lord of the Flies, good people. Listen to this. Let's talk Call of Duty campaign for a minute. Not the review, but I want to tell you, it's getting a little controversy. And I don't, there's only one thing I think I would agree with, but this is coming from, you're not going to be surprised by the first person it's coming from. It's coming from Kotaku, but I want to show you what she's complaining about. And I want to see if you think she's smoking the crack or not. She may not be. Maybe she's got a point. There's a good game buried in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2, she says, but the good parts come after a miserably slow handhold-a-thon of railroaded levels dotted with moments of violence. 100%. I don't care about the violence. Everything in that sentence so far is 100% correct. It'll be in my review, but let me just say how in the fuck that game was allowed to be paced the way it was and nobody caught it. I need fucking a Jason Schreier expose on that. That would be interesting. I don't need another Crunch article. Explain to me how that game becomes that game. But let's move on. She says it's dotted with moments of violence that feel uncomfortable at best and morally questionable.
Great fighting. You're an up-and-coming boxer.
Morally questionable at worst. Let me show you the part she's talking about. She's talking about this level called Killer Capture. It says it requires you to not only clear out a building full of wounded soldiers who can barely raise a gun. Yeah, but they're enemy soldiers, and you're trying to stop a nuke from destroying Washington. But, you know, let's take sympathy on them. They just tried to kill you, but let's keep going. But it also tasked you with murdering someone, grieving over the body of a person your forces just killed. And no, you can't just walk away. They grab a weapon themselves and fire at you. They are clearly cowering in a bathroom and are not dressed in military garb. Yet you have to kill them for the level to continue to the next sequence. I was physically uncomfortable playing the scenario. Let me show you the scenario. Let me show you exactly what this person is talking about. You tell me.
Enemy rockets down.
Solid copy. Good work.
Ghost, building 2 secure.
Roger.
That's
Can't
it.
see the crash site.
That's it. I killed her too. And I didn't even think about it. Because she literally, you walk into the room, yes, she's mourning a dead dude, but watch again. You have barely 2 seconds to recognize what the fuck is happening, and she pulls a gun and starts shooting you. The fuck would you do? Fuck you, Kotaku. Realism says, literally shaking now, Jaffe. Thanks for traumatizing me. Yeah, right. Okay, so that's the first thing. Listen to this. Look at this guy. This one's the one that's making a little bit more waves. This is a streamer, I guess a relatively well-known streamer. What's his name? Hassanabi. He's streaming this. Check this out. This is, he's on the top, obviously. The game's on the bottom. Let me see if I can make that a little bit bigger for you guys to see. Okay, here we go.
What the Special forces to stay inside. Get back inside. Oh, shit!
Wait, hold. What? Wait, that's how you de-escalate? Stop! You de-escalate by aiming at them?
Okay. What? Jimmy McGilchrist says, I like Hassan Abi. I don't know him. I have no beef with the guy at all. This is the first I've ever heard of him. And I'm like, okay, in the game, in this part of the game, they are chasing after a guy who knows where 3 stolen nukes are, who's working with the Russians and the cartel, the Mexican cartel, in hopes of bombing 3 fucking cities in the Western world. Now, And they've been shooting at you and killing all your men, not the civilians, but the people you're chasing. So if you shoot them and kill them, you lose the mission, of course. But to aim a gun at a guy and say, look, I have bigger fish to fry, not your rights. Your rights are super important. We're not going to kill you. We're not going to detain you. That's a big problem. But simply get the fuck out of the way. We are chasing a guy who's going to kill millions of people if we don't catch him, and we're footfalls behind him. I'm not trying to defend some kind of great writing of Call of Duty, but this is just people looking for shit to complain about. This is not going on the street and being like, play a cop and you de-escalate a situation by aiming it. That's not, you can't merge the two. They're not the same goddamn thing. The one complaint I've heard that I'm like, okay, I kind of get that, is where one of the cops in somewhere right across the border in America tells your guys who are Mexican special forces, oh, we have a hard time telling you guys apart from the cartel. And I assume what they meant when I played it was just in terms of gear and stuff, because they're all beefed up with military gear, paramilitary gear. But somebody's saying, oh, that's more of a take on like, oh, all brown people look alike. Okay, that's kind of shitty. But I don't know. I didn't take it as that. But these two things that are getting a little bit of traction, like this is offensive. I don't know. I'll have more to say on it in my review. I just want to say it's a little bit of horse shit, my friends. A little bit of fucking horse shit. I'm not conservative. Somebody says Hassan triggers the conservatives. I'm progressive as you get. But there's a point where it's like, this is not about his freedoms. He's stepping outside in the middle of a hostile firefight. He's like, what's going on? Oh, well, let me explain, sir. This is called an engagement. Now, you may not know this, but the guy we're chasing that's getting away as I'm stopping to talk to you to de-escalate is going to nuke a bunch of places in the West. What I'd love for you to do, but we can talk some more, is go back. Come on, man. Is laughing a protest? No, laughing is not a protest. I don't have a problem that he's laughing at it. He can laugh at wherever the fuck he wants to. But I'm laughing at it because it's almost like, are you just looking for shit to be upset about? You're taking this entirely out of context. And as of right now, it's got almost 30,000 likes. It's got over 500,000 views. And I've seen the press starting to talk about de-escalation and the game not being very woke and all this shit. And I'm like, I mean, this game kind of takes a dump all over the military industrial complex. I mean, I'm not saying it's deep and wise, but to say this is a mouth breather game and it's all, yeah, hurrah, yay, military, fuck everybody else. The bad guys in this game are the fucking American military. So I don't know. It's a little weird, man. It's a little fucking weird. Last thing I'll say on Call of Duty, then we'll move on. Fuck the younger generation. Okay, I'm done. Fuck the younger generation. Here's why. Look at this fucking thing. IGN says, you want to know how to crack all the safes in Call of Duty Modern Warfare 2? Use our wiki guide and you'll get them open in no time. Fuck you. This is not a Mensa application that you're being asked to do. Literally, it's simpler than opening the safes in The Last of Us Part 2, where you look at a calendar and you go, oh, that's my wedding anniversary. You literally can walk over a room and there's a computer that has the code on it and the screen is on, and you look at the screen and you go, oh, I'll put that in the goddamn safe. When did this happen? Same with Marvel Snap. It's just like, what are the best cards? Let me go online and find the exact best cards to make so I can win. Why don't you fucking earn the win? I can't stand it. I cannot stand it. I sat in a meeting at EA once and they said, we spent a lot of money doing research on the kinds of gamers that there are that we can sell to. Sony did similar research, but you know, I don't think they broke it down in different ways. But what EA said was this: we researched the kind of people who like things and pay for things in games. There are the people who are explorers, they called them, if I remember correctly, that want the experience. There are the people who are just doing it for social reasons, don't give a fuck. And then there's like 35% of them are the competitors, and they don't care how. They don't care what they have to spend, what they have to do. They just fucking want to win. And I'm just like going, I want to win too, but I want to win fairly. Where did this divide get drawn? And maybe I get it. Maybe it's a culture thing. You know, I was raised with 50% of it being true, 50% of it being bullshit lies, that good guys win, fair play is important. But maybe if you're a younger generation and you've come up and you've seen just how fucking corrupt everything is, all the corporations, all the government, maybe that, as much as I believe in it personally for me morally, maybe if you're like 23, you're like, fuck you. Of course I'll cheat to get ahead, just like the government, just like the corporations, just like all these other fucking people do. And so maybe it doesn't land as much for that generation. But I can understand that, and I can appreciate that. But man, it bugs me. Man, it bugs me. Totally sick of onions. Hey, buddy. He says, hey, Jeffy, long time no see. You got the new, you're sporting the 24-month Kratos icon. That's a rare sight, but I sure do appreciate the support. It's good to see you, buddy. It's the lack of competition, says AJH. It's entitlement to be given the ability to skip. Anyone with millions of subs who talks more than plays is not interesting. Fuck you. I talk more than I play, you fucker, and I don't have a lot of subs. I prefer Papa Smurf looking old farts with small sad number. Fuck you, piece of shit. You go stick a fucking crack pipe up your butthole and get a kangaroo to blow into it. I have no idea what that would do, if it's even possible. It may not be possible to convince a kangaroo to blow. Can a kangaroo blow? Do they have the anatomy to blow? I don't know. Do animals do blowjobs? Are we the only? Think about that. Let's assume gorillas do blowjobs. But other than gorillas and humans, never seen a dog give a blowjob. Never seen a. I'm not. You guys are laughing like I'm being silly. I'm like, seriously. I'm going to enter it. I want to see. Then we'll go back to the news. I promise. Do animal? Hang on. I'll just do oral sex. Do animals engage in oral sex? Oral sex occurs with some frequency throughout the animal kingdom. It's been observed in primates, of course, but spotted hyenas, goats, and sheep. Female cheetahs and lions lick and rub the male genitals as part of their courtship ritual. Huh. Well, what do you know about that? Hey, Rob the Mod says, what do I do to get my 6-year membership? Oh, yeah, I don't know. I got to make one just for you. If I could do it, I would, Rob the Mod. You know I would, man. See, Lou, thank you, buddy. He's been a member for 8 months. You know I appreciate that, buddy. Very, very kind. Very, very courteous. Thanks, bud. Beats Games and Life has dropped a super chat. He says, Jaffe, who was on the short list to direct God of War 2? Well, Corey was on the short list. Donald Mustard was on the short list. My guess is if Donald Mustard, because we reached out to him first, not because we didn't consider Corey, but it made sense because we had some good conversations about narrative gameplay. If he would have said yes, he probably would have gotten the job. But it was Corey and Donald, and I want to say there was one more person, but I do not. I don't remember yet. I don't remember yet. I don't remember right now. Carl D, 24 months. Thank you, buddy. Being a member 24 goddamn months. Thank you, sir. I appreciate it. Okay. Let's talk very briefly about the Calisto Protocol. Calisto Protocol, as you know, it's gone gold, comes out December 2nd. Calisto Protocol, which is also, we talked earlier how it was banned in Japan for violence, dismemberment, whatnot. But not even banned. They just said, hey, if you don't make these changes, you can't release it. And they said, well, we're not going to release it. Then go fuck yourself. They didn't say it like that, but that would have been fun. Was I offered God of War 2? Oh, of course. And the only reason we were looking is I said, I'm done. I can't do this anymore. So I'm looking forward to Callisto. It looks great. I just want to bring this up to see if I'm the only one that's kind of been picking up on this. The hands-on previews make it kind of sound, I mean, it looks beautiful. Like, look at this. I mean, look at that, right? Look at the teeth. And it's beautiful. It's beautiful. But the hands-on play makes it sound, not bad. I'll read you. This is coming from Engadget, the preview. Overall, the preview was a haze of sci-fi gore, action, and surprise. I'm excited to play the full game when it comes out. To be honest, I almost expected more out of the Calisto Protocol, more growth since Dead Space, a new perspective on horror, a stronger attempt to be different than that iconic game. Instead, Calisto leans into Dead Space's original ideas and competes with them directly. The Calisto Protocol contains a few fresh concepts, but its mostly satisfying mechanics are the familiar ones, spit shine for a new generation. That said, the Calisto Protocol's success isn't guaranteed just because it's riffing on proven ideas. That's a preview. This is another preview. This one's coming from GameSpot. Listen to this. This is from, who wrote this one? Jordan Ramey. Despite looking a whole lot like the spiritual successor, here, I'll put this up while I'm talking so you have something besides my beautiful face. This is the new footage that just came out from this game. It says, despite looking a whole lot like spiritual successor to Dead Space, I was surprised how little Calisto Protocol terrified me. The setting and enemy designs are certainly unnerving, but in a way I've seen before, and there's a sense of comfort in that familiarity. Callisto Protocol stands out in what it does differently, in which it injects a compelling melee combat system into a survival horror game. Many survival horror games keep the monsters more than arm's length away, allowing you to keep them at bay with a handgun, plasma cutter, etc. The Callisto Protocol breaks that mold, amping its tension by encouraging you to aggressively deal with whatever gross monster you're fighting. That sounds pretty good. Not a problem, pal. Listen to this. They keep going, though. Initially, I approached Callisto Protocol much like Dead Space, Resident Evil, or The Evil Within, carefully weighing the situation and warily approaching each fight, trying to take out one enemy at a time, then pulling back to reassess. That saw me die a lot because you can't instantly heal in Callisto Protocol. You have to sit, and it takes a long time to do it, so you're vulnerable, right? Enemies in Callisto hit hardest when they're in your face, and they'll do all they can to close the gap quickly. With very little room to breathe, I quickly found that it is best to heal after a fight is ended. That means you always have to hit hard and fast, ending the battle as quickly as possible. In this way, Callisto Protocol encourages you to turn the tables on your foes. You have to be the monster pursuing the bad guys. I found far more success when I threw caution to the wind and risked a few hits to land half a dozen blows of my own. Instead of using the telekinetic grip device to grab objects and throw them, I most often used it to pull enemies towards me. Playing it safe and being careful only gave enemies time to bunch together and overwhelm me. But being aggressive helped turn the tables. This is where I'm going with this. He says, between all the brutality and grossness, I wasn't all that scared of Callisto. The violence in the game is brutal and super gross, but in a way that feels geared towards producing shock as opposed to fear. They're shocking to look at, but after a while you grow numb to that and see the same animations, and they're just an unnecessary cutscene preventing you from being able to immediately reload your last checkpoint and try again. It is a survival experience with scarce resources and hard-hitting enemies, encouraging you to forage for ammo, etc., but the section I played at least lacked the unnerving sense of discomfort because basically you're a very capable brawler, and once you get used to the combat, he says, I was holding my own against the monsters. I never felt like I was a dominant force, but I wasn't just some guy out of his element. Finally, he says, this isn't necessarily a bad thing, as I enjoyed what I played. I just want to warn folks, if you're expecting Callisto to be this terrifying horror experience, that's not the vibe I got from the game I played, the snippet of game I played. The setting's spooky, the monsters are gross, but the game doesn't seem to match the horrific tone of its cinematic trailer. So the more and more I read on this, this has been, probably might still be, my most anticipated game of the year. And I'm still there day one. And I guess the more I read about it, the more it sounds like it really is just a lot of melee combat. And I know that there's a little stealth and there are a little puzzle solving. And I'm hoping that, but if that's the case though, if that's the case though, one would assume what they would have done was shown off more variety in the hands-on. right? But if all they're kind of showing is this combat section where it's a lot of melee, it and letting people play that, it's like, why would you not show them a couple of different sections? Like if you go to E3 and you play a new Zelda game, they always have a boss and a puzzle and the general section to show you that there's some variety. So I'm not bringing it up to shit on it. I'm still very excited, but I am a little worried because all these previews I've read, none of them are like, oh my God, you guys, this thing is fucking awesome. It's terrifying. It's the next step for Dead Space. The action is crazy. I'm not seeing that. If you are, please give me a link, but I'm still excited. Still super excited. Now, speaking of a game that might be rising a little bit higher on my can't wait to play, my number one can't wait to play, Callisto's still up there, probably still at the top. But I want to put a video on. We're going to take a break. This is about, let me tell you what's going on real quick. Okay. Uwu says it's more combat and slow paced as opposed to RE4, which is half action, half horror. Is what he says about the game. For some reason, I'm not excited about it, says Vitruvian Man. I'll still get it and probably like it, but it's not day one. It looks less than Dead Space original, says Lord Garth. Scorn is weird and trippy more than terrifying. That's most horror games. Yeah, I mean, horror's fucking hard. Ahmad says, I like when they said you are hunting the enemies. Imagine a game where the player is the hunter and the enemies are playing survival, a villain main character. Yeah, I think that's cool, but I think ultimately that's every game. That's just narrative at that point. I mean, you're always hunting the enemies in every game. If the narrative says you're the quote bad guy, sure. But yes, of course I'll review Ragnarok, and I won't review it when it comes out, but I will play it when it comes out day one, and then I'll do a review. But here's the game. Okay, so here's what's going on. Let me fill you guys in. So we have reached the point in the stream where we're taking a little break. When we come back, it'll be members only chat. If you're watching live now, you don't have to go anywhere. If you want to keep watching the show, we're going to be talking about God of War a little bit. A new trailer they dropped, which has knocked this fucking thing up to maybe competing with Callisto. We're going to be talking about this amazing, I'm going to save it. We'll see. We're going to be talking about Xbox numbers, and we're going to be talking about all the console war aside, the company that is primed to have the very best goddamn Christmas coming up. But if you're listening after the fact, this is where we leave you. Thank you for listening. Thank you for hanging out with us. Consider a membership to Gabbin' Games. Tomorrow, if you're a member, we will be doing a top secret movie, and I will also be doing a members only chat for a horror based Gabbin' Games. That's tomorrow. We're always doing membership stuff. Consider a membership. But if not, thank you for hanging out with us for the time you have. I appreciate it. I appreciate your company, your contributions. Be well. And if you're watching live, stick around. We're going to take a break. This video is 8 minutes. This is the video that Sony just released that I'm going to put up on the screen for you. And I'll tell you what, this is out of all the stuff that these guys have shown so far, this to me is the best thing they've released. It's an 8-minute trailer focusing on their combat, and I will be back on the flip side of it, and we will talk about the trailer a little bit, and then we will jump into talking about Xbox's figures, and maybe things aren't going as swimmingly as a lot of us, including me, had hoped. We will see. I'll be back on the flip side. Be well, you guys.